He's lost.
Yeah, we actually got booed out of the stadium.
You got booed out of the stadium.
Yeah, they booed the team at the fourth quarter on the way out.
Oh man.
And usually that doesn't occur, and everyone says straight out, even on Facebook and on the radio, they're like, yeah, they got yelled at pretty good going in because they said we could hear the fans booing everyone.
Yeesh.
So hold on
Yeah.
here 2 seconds. I'm going to grab a cup of coffee.
Sure.
Oh, I'm live. I know. I'm live.
Yeah, you're live. You're live. No, I'm kidding. We are recording, but we can edit.
All right.
Uh. Oh yeah.
I had to get a little extra go juice in me, so
A little extra what?
go juice, some coffee.
I got it too. Yeah, totally. How are you?
I'm doing good. Been little struggling with a little quietness because the shows are done. But
Can you turn this up?
it's actually it was a great thing. So I'm behind the scenes design all kinds of stuff. So this
Sorry. There, it just shut off. I couldn't hear you over my goddamn heater. Okay, so quietness. You were saying you're struggling with quietness.
yeah, I cannot. Stillness bugs me a lot just
Oh,
because I'm such a restless type,
yep.
busybody, and I'm starting to see my schedule kind of. It's a transition. So like everyone up here, I mean, today we had snow, so everyone's kind of transitioning out of farmers
Yeah.
markets into winter stuff, and it's kind of that quiet time until December. And like I said earlier, prior, traditionally everyone in October, November starts deer hunting or, hunting, hiking, fall stuff, all the festivity stuff, and all the CrossFit terrain, obstacle course racing is all pretty much done up here. So I made it through a lot of my show season. And now I'm more just kind of prepping for next spring. So it's a good break, but it's not for like a flow of just being in the mental state of just everything moving 100 miles an hour. I'm not in that right now, and it's kind of bugging me.
I totally get that. I'm like in between phases of 75 hard, and here, I mean, it's not as cold as where you're at, but it's fall. It's overcast. It's cold. There's no people coming over, and it is a weird transition of going the way we go so hard in the summer to almost total shutdown mentally. I've been struggling myself, just slowing it down.
And like for me, this okay. Traditionally, when I go into something like this, I end up finding something to fill that void. Like we were going prior in the past with what I would fill it with. This one is actually a good one because it's going to sound weird, but being an entrepreneur and even someone who's working full time, traditionally, like the normal stance be, hey, I'm gonna go work a part time job making $10 an hour. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, you can jump on Fiverr. I just have all these guys doing all these like website development, everyone that's in our new e-com industries and all that fun stuff that's in that whole online balloon of everything. And I'm like, well, let's just take time, learn a new skill. Let's take the time to go get Fiverr set up. I think Upstart, Uptrack, whatever's the other one that everyone goes to, and just get that true entrepreneurial stuff back in me again instead of making $20 here, $40 here, all that side cash stuff.
Yeah. And how does that play for you mentally with, your past and overcoming addiction and stuff like that? Is it triggering for you having this downtime, or you embrace it? How do you handle that?
Honestly, I've had 3 anxiety attacks in the last month, and it's not so much there's it's not so much the it'd be nice to go back and drink. I'll say it that way. I'll be 100% honest. And when it's such something you grew up with, you're just so used to the routine of, hey, it's a Friday night, you're going out to get something to eat, whatever. I just know what my options are as like a non-alcoholic. So like if I do crave a beer, I can have a athletic brewing. um, I don't touch anything when it comes to like anything in that whole hard liquor window. I know there's a whole industry of NAs. I can't even go down that route. Like that is trouble waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But for me, having like a good athletic brew, NA, guys, we're gonna clarify it's a non-alcoholic.
I haven't even
Um,
heard of Athletic Brew.
yeah,
Is
it's
that a Wisconsin thing or?
no athletic brew. Actually, there's two things. It's created out of the eastern side, so like New York, that whole side. The market it came out of is actually the endurance market. So if you look at like the marathon, the triathlon people, that's their go-to. And I didn't even notice about that until I started prepping for my marathon. And it's kind of like that 75 hard. So like for us, they say no alcohol. So people, especially up here, I'm fine. I already know that. But like for the traditional people in the upper Midwest, they're like, what do I substitute for having no alcohol?
Mm,
So now a lot of these people in this area are bringing that market back up here. So we have a lot of, I don't want to say micro stuff, just a real kind of small indent company. I just know it's a fine line for me when I go to that because there's such a muscle memory. And this is just me over the 3 years I'm running. 3 years will be next month. So it's just a traditional like red flags that or like the muscle memories or whatever. You get so alert with your body of how it reacts and kind of go. Um, the only time I have non-alcoholic beer in my hand is actually at my parents' house because it's just the traditional of traditional. I mean, that's the
yeah.
best way of explaining it. Like yesterday, I would go, stepdad and I kind of shut down, shot the bowl a little bit, just kind of going full country boy a little bit. But um, for me, it's habits, it's patterns. I cannot, and I'll be completely honest, guys. Like through the whole United States, a lot of establishments have phenomenal food. And you have to go into the establishment. You might have to cut through the sports bar to get to the place to eat. That's just how they're designed.
Yeah.
Um, I have learned that I can be in them, but it's going to be like a quarterly. So if it's a business event, I can go in them. I know I feel safe because for me, it's hey, I'm here networking with friends, family, guys, whatever. Um, but to me, if I'm going to a new place to go grab like a burger or pizza or any of these type of foods, I physically have to look at where the exit is. I have to physically look at where the bathrooms are. And I have to physically look at, okay, how close am I to the exit point? Because even though I'm grabbing a piece of food, I can still smell something that's 20 feet away from me. It's
Sure.
really weird.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, and that's why there's either seasonal triggers, situational triggers. It is a thing, and I love that you already have mapped out like if it just gets too much, this is what I need to do. Which I think we teach that in the program because I think it's important to you can't just lock yourself up in your house the rest of your life white knuckling it and hoping for the best. You got to kind of put yourself into life and then learn how to best navigate that. And it sounds like you've figured that out. So it's really smart.
And the other thing that kind of, well, how you explained it and the smartness, I never knew I had such alertness in my body.
Mm,
I could, growing up with drinking and all that stuff, or even prior marriage, or whatever, you can kind of sense a little bit, but not the sense of awareness of, okay, this mask is completely dropped. Now you can be so much alert when you're just feeding off of people. You can kind of sense someone who's kind of trying to navigate you, or vice versa, someone that's going to throw you under the bus. It's just like this fifth senses or sixth senses just kind of get real extreme with us, just because you're navigating. It's the best way I'm saying it, and best analogy I give to everyone is, for me, it's like you're driving down the highway. Your addiction's behind you. It's like cops chasing you. You have to literally be going.
yeah.
Because if you hit a speed bump and you turn that car sideways, the whole rush of everything's going to come back and just whack you. And it's a positive. I don't want to say, guys, don't run away from the cops. It just, to
Yeah,
me,
that was not the
that's,
purpose of the analogy.
yeah, to me, that's what it is, because you have to physically be ahead of something and kind of be like 20 feet ahead of yourself to be alert and on top of the edge of, okay, something's going to happen here. What do I need to do to get out? And
Sure.
I only been trapped. Um, I'm gonna use the term trapped. I did not do anything. It just trapped in a situation where, and I was cussing and swearing and just throwing fists and whatever. But that was it was a July 4th, I think 2 years ago.
Mm.
Someone had me in the boat, and a group of friends or whatever, and the friends in there knew I was clean, so they're like, hey, drive us back, whatever, we're fine. She's seen the journey, and she understood what happened. The person that owned the boat kind of got mad that I cleaned up because I was his other, buddy.
Road dog, yeah.
Yeah, and that whole situation was, I was very glad to make it on shore.
Dang.
It was just, we had to remind the person to turn left, turn right here, and just kind of, you just hit that stage where you're out of control.
Yep.
And yeah, it was to the point where I actually ended my friendship like a week later. I'm like, I can't even do this. Like, I'm not babysitting you. You just take care of your life, and I need to walk my own path. And that that's the only one that pretty much had me trapped, like a physical trap.
Because you were literally trapped on a boat. I mean, I guess you could
Yeah.
have jumped, but who knows where you were, how you would get back to where you were going. But still,
Yeah.
you
But
were
and that's
physically trapped.
and that's the thing that, and someone's like, hey, how do you stay clean for so long? You can kind of teach certain things, and I'll be completely honest, guys, like your friends list is going to disappear. Like your normal friends are going to completely just go away. The ones that are true and they understand your process are going to come back. They're just going to disappear for a time frame, just because they want you to kind of take care of your own stuff first, and then they'll creep back. So like a handful of my friends creep back at like the 6 month mark saying, hey man, we know what's going on. How are you doing? And then like my key ones are not, 2.5 years later, I got my key ones back into it. They're like, we had to step away, just to kind of let you do your own thing, let you clean up, let you just kind of disappear and find yourself again. And not get tied into the drama or, the fancy way of saying it, but they're like, this walk was for you, not for us.
Yep.
So they're like, and I have a very good friends like, okay, how you doing? How's your phases? How's this? And it ended up being, it's really quite funny because when we get in this entrepreneurship journey, we're very open with everyone to be like, and like you said, how you doing today? How's your mind? How's everything? Traditionally in like everyday life, people are not like that.
Mm.
And I had this conversation last night with, a very, very good brother of mine. He's like, hey man, how you doing? It's 10:30. We're both up doing work. We're becoming lone wolves. And I kind of chuckle at it because it's just the life that we have.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I wrote back, I said, hey man, when you're doing good, I'm doing bad. When I'm doing bad, you're doing good. It's like a perfect balance where we kind of lift each other up. And he said the one thing straight out, he's like, I might be on a hill ahead of you, but he's like, I know you're behind me and I know you're coming.
Mm.
So he's like, I want to make sure you're coming with the journey. And this is like a 20-year plus friendship that we've had that.
Wow.
But now I'm starting to realize now, like, and I'm gonna use Sean and Ed and all those guys, like when you're tight with everyone, they want to make sure you're happy, healthy, physically right, mentally right, your business is healthy, your family is healthy, and they don't even care what you make. It's just take care of your home stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it goes in phases too. I one thing I've really learned is it's about a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And sometimes you can have somebody you think is going to be there for forever, but you start moving at a different rate or pace, and maybe they're not keeping up, and you're at different levels, and it upsets them to see where you're at and where they're at, and so it just naturally sort of distances itself. And that's something that I had to work on over the last few years, is almost that law of detachment, and not being so like, this is forever, everything is forever. It's like, it's okay. It doesn't have to be for forever. It could just be for right now, and that's okay. And learning how to detach, because I didn't know how to do that.
Well, and that's it. And I haven't had a huge issue with that. For 34 years of my life, I had a huge issue with detachment, because for me growing up, it was always, and I'll be brutally honest here. My parents got divorced and my dad didn't want me. So I attached to my mom. And, throughout I had a very good stepdad that took me under his wing. So I'm fine with that. But it
Yeah.
took 20 plus years to kind of understand, to slowly, okay, hey, I'm fine. I'm okay. You know, and it's not a mother henning thing. It's my own trust issues with what happened growing up, all the trauma growing up, all the drinking. And it's just a big ball where you just kind of like, and especially now, I feel great. I'm more introverted than I am extroverted
Mm.
now. Um, but I'm perfectly happy with what I have right now. I'm perfectly happy with, walking down to the river and just sitting on a bench. I don't need to have people entertaining me at the time. Um, and I don't know if that's like a special piece or something where you just kind of grow at certain levels, but I've learned that it's okay to be, alone on a walk. It's okay to be listen to music alone. It's okay just to have a conversation with yourself alone and
Yeah.
just
Or
kind
like you
of.
said, be alone on a Friday night. Like for me, that used to trigger the heck out of me for
Oh, I
so
love it.
many years because that was always the signal that at the end of the week, time to party, Friday night. And for me, that was almost the hardest thing to overcome was being okay with that on a Friday night.
I feel great on a Friday night because I know when everyone's out partying, and it's going to sound very arrogant, guys, how I'm going to word this, but this is just how we're wired. We're so used to just taking certain time blocks and working in time blocks. But when it comes to Friday night, my creative mode on the weekend, actually, since I don't have work involved or whatever, but I get my creative level actually increases on the weekend. So, like a Friday night, a Saturday night, and a Sunday night, I will just crush through stuff for all my business stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
not I like the normal life, everyone goes up north. And I had this saying last week, um, driving on the highway, everyone's kind of enjoying the last good quality weekend in upper Wisconsin. And I'm just looking, it's like bumper to bumper going up north. I'm like, you guys are just, and not against anyone that does that. It's just, I'm like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to enjoy some music and, get caught up on projects I have going.
Yeah.
And, like you said, they're going up, they're going to party, they're going to kind of drag their way through Saturday, and come Sunday, they're going to be like, oh, I have to go back to work. And for me, I just feel fulfilled, knowing I could tackle it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and like you said, I think a lot of it is just learning to be okay with yourself. There's so much self reflection there and being okay to listen and observe and not, I love how you put, not have to be entertained. Because that's where the magic comes, when you can be in that stillness and that space and in that alone time. That's where you're open for the good things to come in. Whereas for me, I used to keep myself so busy, so I gotta go do this and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna listen to this podcast. I'm gonna listen to that music. I'm gonna, my world was constantly. I just had to keep it coming in all the time, and that prevented a lot of the good stuff from coming in because I was trying to inundate myself with outside influences as opposed to allowing myself the space and the freedom for good stuff to come in.
And I'm not training right now, so for me, if I can feel that anxiety attack kind of coming up, and honestly, what it is, it's 100% two things. It's a fear of failure from my past because I had a business that went backwards, and my mind goes directly back to that moment of fighting through the marriage and all that stuff with business. So like it's just certain things I need to heal from. But for me to understand and break it down and just look at, okay, go sit by a bench, go for a walk, whatever it is. And I call it cigar Saturday night sometimes. Just go sit on a bench, have a cigar, and just, put Tom Petty on, whatever it is, just to kind of chill your body out.
Yeah.
And you know how many guys are like, and guys and girls walking on the water lines are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just sitting on a bench having a cigar and just saying, thank you for giving me this day. Just be very gratitude, or, I'm
Yeah.
Christian, so thank the Lord for this day. And, yeah, like you said, it's just the water, the calmness of nature, whatever it is, all of a sudden it just, the universe starts throwing stuff back in your mind.
Yeah. I love that. So you sent me, thank you. I have your book. Winning the Fight Against Addiction and Living a Purposeful Life. When did you discover your purpose?
It's growing each day. My main purpose, actually, back when I wrote that, because that's about a year or so, I ended writing it about now. So this time last year went into the publishing. For me, what it was is I did not want to be stat. So every time when I started cleaning up, prior to cleaning up, what I noticed is we were having some family health issues um, in my family, like my wide family. And I had a cousin pass away, I had a grandpa pass away, and I'm like, okay, I am 3 4 years away from my cousin that passed away, and watch my grandpa. He had Parkinson's, so it was just a slow battle of deterioration and all that stuff. And guys, just go get help right away. If you have it, go get help. Don't drag it on. And for me, I'm just looking at him like, why is everyone watching? Why is everyone just kind of la la? I don't want to say la la land with their life, but just kind of stalled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it, and to me, it was just I did not want that life. I did not want to be at that complacent level. Um, so to myself, I want to be a stat and I want to get back. And just it's the why just keeps growing and growing and growing, because it's the universe all of a sudden will add a little bit more into it, and all of a sudden now it's 2 3 years into it, you're almost becoming a leader, even though you're not. Like me personally, I don't see myself as that, but there's so many people looking up, like at least myself, doing the marathons, the trainings, all that stuff. They're like, we knew you prior to that, we know you now, what the hell happened? And then I could kind of back up and walk through, okay, hey, this is what happened, this is where I got my life in order, this is how I fought my addiction, obviously I grew my faith. And now my why is just more of, how do I be spiritually sound, how do I be physically sound, and how do I be mentally sound, and just keep it simple, stupid for me.
But isn't
And
that always like the best answer? It's like the easiest one. That's why people can't accept it. It's just like too simple.
everyone's like it's that simple. I'm like, it is that simple, honestly. They're
Yeah,
like, how do I break free? I'm like, well, you got to do this and this. They're like, is there more? I'm like, no.
that's it.
That's seriously it.
Yeah.
It's like, send me the check now. But yeah, no, look, my main focus is just making sure I those three pillars I'm key on. Relationships should be in there, but I figure mentally, if I'm mentally healthy upstairs, my relationships will be mentally healthy in the long run. Obviously, I had a trust issue growing up. I have trust issues still, but that's more. The more I'm around, just chilling and having that downtime and relaxation and down by the water, my anxiety levels decrease, my hyperactiveness decreases. I have huge level ADHD that decreases, and it's just a continuous cycle, knowing that you're more. No pun intended on both of our shirts we have on here,
Ah.
but it's just it's just a small ball each day. How do you win it? How do you win it? How do you win it?
Do you think there's a big drop off for you because you're not training for the marathon right now? There was a lot of stuff that goes into that just sort of abruptly stops. Do you think that feeds into it?
I was like that for the 2 to 4 weeks after.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I have I think it was on my Facebook that I posted. It's like, what just because I literally went from 50 to 60 miles a week down to 5,
Yeah.
just because obviously my body had to recoup. But then now, different routines. I did not lift weights for like the last 2 months of my training,
Mm.
just because I was already up to like 2 hours of running plus stretch and all that stuff. And for me, I'm one of those guys that I have to have yoga and I have to have the weight room, and down the road it'll probably be CrossFit and Muay Thai or some of that throwing and grappling stuff tied into it. But I physically need to push weights, and I'm not a violent kid, but I physically need to push someone or something or whatever it is, just to kind of get that adrenaline up and running, and get my focus, awake my focus.
Are you back in the gym now?
Absolutely. I'm going to go do it right after we get done here.
You back to lifting heavy weights? I mean, after you've been doing it for a while, does it come back pretty quickly for you, like inching back up to the levels you were at?
It took about a week and a half.
That's it?
week and a half, then maybe 2 weeks. So I'm not as nutritional as I was when I was training because it was constant greens, proteins, eating good.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, I was burning a lot of calories, so I was eating hamburgers and guys I didn't eat as clean. I still love my cheeseburgers and stuff, but um, now it's just more of okay, make sure we're not going to get too nerdy here on the numbers and stuff, but like just make sure I have a good number of protein in me, make sure I have some eggs in me. Um, but yeah, my numbers went up probably about 2-3 weeks after. Um, but it's a different strength though. It's not because in my past I'd always be on like deer antler velvet, not steroids or TRT or any of that stuff, but just something just to enhance the recovery a little faster.
Hmm.
And now I haven't been on it for about I think 3-4 months. And for me, my recovery is here, but my body feels good. So whatever I make sore at night lifting, I will stretch out and I'm good to go in the morning with yoga. And then I'm also learning not to grab my phone in the morning. So I'll go jump into
Mm.
yoga right away for 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Yep.
And because I have we're both addicting personalities. So all of a sudden you're like, hey, phone's in my hand. What can I get myself into?
Yep.
And now I'm learning to drop that phone and gain control of my life in the morning. Just little things that, and I'm going to call, Bedros B here, but just certain things you kind of pick up on podcasts that, you can learn. Especially like last night, he's like, there's a turn off the snooze button on the iPhones. I didn't even know about that. All of a sudden I look, I'm like, no, we're not doing snooze. Turn that off. And then I think it's Goggins was talking about dropping the phone. Don't look at your phone for like an hour.
Yep.
Get your body moving, get everything set, and then pick your phone up. It's just the little nuggets that you kind of just fit in your own little schedule. I did try the 3:30 in the morning, wake up and go to the weight room. Yeah, that's a
Not for
no-go
me.
for me.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's cold, it's dark. I'm not motivated. I'm there by myself. No, thank you. Uh-uh.
The biggest thing that I noticed was the food pattern. So if I would work out in the morning, I would go into work good, but you're trying to time your lunch and your suppers, and I was eating probably 15 hours in a day. And I'm like, like my mind was constantly cloudy. It was not in the zone. And I'm like, okay, we need to stop this.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's like trial and error. Like what works, what doesn't work, because what works for some people, it doesn't always translate to what works for us. Yeah, I know a little hack that I did is I have my phone automatically D&D from like 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. where it silences all notifications. So I'm not like constantly being like lured over to check it. And then that's cool, but then you still have to discipline yourself to not then just go, oh gosh, it's been quiet for a while. What's been going on? Let me go check on that. And so those are two things in the last, I would say, year that I've been really trying to focus on, like you said, is not checking my phone for the first hour I wake up, then silencing everything so I'm not being lured away by notifications, and really trying to be causative over how much time we spend on these things, because it's definitely like a work, like ethics sucker, and it's just too much. I mean, it has great usages, but it also has the other side of it as well.
Well, I also noticed last week too that when we have that memory usage or whatever it is that we get the notification on a Sunday, I'm looking, it's like it's up 25%. I'm like, yo, we gotta kill this. So I'm gonna just new routines I'm throwing in and just trying to make sure that my mind's in the right spot.
Yeah, that's great. What else have you added in? Do you do meditation or praying or both?
Typically, yes, I pray daily no matter what. I used to do it right away in the morning. I lost track of that, and I usually do it right before I head into work. It's a good kind of calmness while I'm sitting on the parking lot that I am okay. Go through saying, "Hey, this is what I'm grateful for. Thank you very much." Whatever the routine is for the day,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Okay, let's go to work." So it's a good thing just to kind of ground me before I jump into the door, or even if I have a commercial location in the future, whatever it is, it's something just to ground me down. It's just me and my car, music shut off, and then I could just open the door and say, okay, hey, let's get to it today. Traditionally, I would do it right away, right when I first wake up. Um, my brain takes a little bit just to kind of get going,
Same.
and for me, I rather have that time frame about hour and a half after.
Yeah.
I never learned meditation. So as much as I would love to do it, I do not know how to do it.
It is like anything. It takes time to practice. It's like any muscle, repetition over and over and over and learning how to do it. I was very frustrated the first few years because I'm like, I should be great at this. I should understand this. I should know this. I can't shut my mind off. I'm a mental horoscope sign. I think all the time. Like this maybe works for everybody else, but not for me. And so, but it just took repetition over and over. And I'm certainly no pro at it, but I still do it. whether I'm good at it or not, I'm still doing it. But I did notice. So I used to have like the timer, and at first it was get through 2 minutes, then it was get through 4 minutes, and I'd be like, wait a minute, I think I forgot to set the timer. That must be what's going on because it hasn't gone off yet. And I look, and it's like you're only 2 minutes in. I was like, oh shit. So that was like my beginning first couple of years, and then finally now I've gotten to a point where I just open end it. I just press start on the timer. And then I have like a nice long meditation session. I'm like, oh, how long was that? Holy shit, that was like 13 minutes. And so it's like, but again, it just like everything, it's just practice, repetition, doing the reps, doing the time before it becomes more normal and easy for sure.
There's one thing I am noticing the last couple months here is that every time that I'm in the right Zen spot, whatever, just the right mindset, I have water next to me. So I
Ah,
don't know if and we can get all, on the psychic side of it. I'm a Pisces, so I float everywhere. But in general, though, for me, walking out I think for me, physically in my sight in the future, I'm going to have to live on a lake or ocean or something just to physically walk out, sit by the water, meditate, whatever it is, and walk back in. It takes me from when I'm going 100 miles an hour, it'll take me down to like 10 miles an hour.
yeah,
Just drop me that low,
yeah,
and just resets me so much. And I grown to appreciate it big time, especially where I live. It's about a block away, and I can walk about 4 miles, 5 miles around the lake,
mm,
and just sit. And if you hit it at the right time, you can get it with the sun going down, hitting right in your face. So the the not to get too how Wisconsin is, but the lake opens up on the western side, so you could just sit and enjoy a beautiful sunset, but yet thinking and just kind of reset. So that's what I'm learning right now. But yeah, no, I have you and a handful of other people that are doing meditation. There's another one. And he's in our circle, and I love the kid to death, but he's doing like the breathing exercises.
oh, Nick,
Um, yeah, Nick, good brother. I only I can say so much great things about that guy.
yeah,
But yeah, no, he's to take someone like him who is just even like myself, just the best analogy bowling ball. It's just busy, 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 tough dude, and just completely drop him down and
yeah.
flip his life around. So I'm eager to kind of learn, or at least watch him through that. And when I can get some wiggle room or whatever in my life, I would love to pick that up if I could, just to kind of get. That's another thing to reset us.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing too, is there's just so much available to us. Try it on. Does it work? Does it not work? Should I give it some more time before I decide if it works or not? I mean, my favorite thing to do, and this is what I was really good at first before I was good at just sitting there, was mindful walking meditation. So I would just, and again, when I first started walking, I got to hear my podcast, let me listen to my music. And then I just started turning it all off and just being present in the walk. And that's how I really started getting in the reps for meditation and mindfulness myself, is because I felt better when I was moving. I felt better when I was walking through the sand in the ocean. Um, Sorry, I have that out here, but I totally get what you're saying about the water. If I really need like a quick grounding, like after a trip and I've been away and traveling and people and I'll just go down to the beach with the dogs and I'll just mindfully walk through the waves, and it just chills me out almost immediately. So I totally get that, but definitely the walking meditations were way easier for me.
And I actually caught something like that. We call it the runner's high. But when you're
Mm,
training, all of a sudden your brain just shuts right down.
yeah.
You're I would literally run 10 feet next to a major highway, and I would not see the cars. I would not hear the cars. I just would feel the breeze. That's it. I would just get so in depth of that runner's high, and it's just a world. Just the best way to explain it, you just get in the zone. It's just like right there,
Yeah.
and all you see is 3, 4 feet ahead of you. And that's probably pretty close or pretty similar to what you're doing when you're walking. It's
Yeah,
just
for
the world
sure.
just shrinks right down.
Yep.
And I miss that zone.
Yeah. Well, and you're so 100% present, everything else shuts out. So you feel really good because you're like not here, you're not there, you're not present, you're not future, you're I mean you are present, you're not past, you're not future. And so that is such a calm and peace and just being 100 present in the moment without thinking. It is. It's probably exactly like that. It's amazing.
And that was something I wished I had during my marathon when I ran. It
Oh,
never came. I was
really?
I was mad because I'm like, okay, 5 mile. When I was at the peak, it was about 3 to 4 miles. And all of a sudden it'll just start creeping in and it just kind of takes over. It did not take over. I get to the end, I'm like, I never got my in guys that as our past, it's kind of something we don't want to scream out loud, but it's like
Like,
the
damn
high
it, I
never
got
came.
robbed.
It never came. And
Oh,
I was super mad about it.
do you think maybe it had to do with just like having to have awareness with all these other people and energies and everything else going on? You couldn't just like get into that Zen place with yourself?
This one was a weird race. When I did the half marathon, I could do that. I was doing it pretty much every day, running, training up to the marathon. I don't want to call it a fluke race. I ran slow. I felt like I was heavy.
Mm,
I'd never felt full running. Just kind of, it was a weird stage. The best way of saying it. It just felt like the engine was out of gas, the oil was out, and you're
yeah,
just trying to make your way up that hill.
yeah. And but you finished. You
I
got yourself
finished.
through it.
Yeah, and
That's amazing.
I did move. I did sleep. I think there's a crash that comes after it. I think it kicked in like the day after, but um, my mock marathon I actually felt worse than I did when I ran my marathon.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I couldn't move my knees. I could walk, but I couldn't go like I couldn't shift sideways for like 2 days.
Whoa.
Just roll tender.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of like impact over and over and over on your joints and your bones and your body. I mean, I mean, I have a heart condition, but otherwise, for me, I just don't feel like it would be a greatest good for this body to put myself through that.
I just do it because I kind of want to be like Goggins for some days.
Yeah, it's all good. Look, my COO, he just did the Chicago Marathon, and we're like the same age, and he loves it. He absolutely loves running, but it takes its toll. But I always think I would much rather have the toll from doing physical activity take me down than the toll of throwing out my back because I got out of bed because I'm unhealthy and my body is not doing good. So I'll take the side effects of working out or doing this stuff any day over that.
The two funniest lines or one funniest line that it came after like 20 minutes after I finished, we were around the table and families there, whatever. And my mom's, well, two things. She's like, "What do you want to do now? You're trying to recap or whatever." And I said, "Throw me in a cage to fight right now." She's like, "What?" I said, "I physically need to throw someone's body on the ground." Because I was a wrestler in high school. And I didn't appreciate wrestling or throwing or grappling until I'm guessing probably like the last year.
Mm,
Just because in high school it's like, okay, I want to be around girls, I want to work, I want to prep. There's so many things in your head trying to move. And now I'm like, there's such an escape of kind of, you know, girl or guy, it don't matter, but like the primal comes out of you where all of
yeah.
a sudden you could just flip that switch and someone that's non-violent can still contain it. And then when they need to shoot or they need to flip or they need to roll or whatever the routine is, they can attack and kind of just attack like nature.
Yeah.
And for me, I missed that this year because I wasn't playing any competitive sports. And that was one main thing where I know I have to chase right now. And I don't know if it's an addicting side of it or if it's a high or whatever it is deep down I have to chase. But and then the other one was watching everyone's conversation where I'm like, hey, I want to do the ultra next year.
Yeah.
And they're like, you just ran 26-point mile. Are you fucking nuts? I'm like, what's another 26? I just ran 26.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Well, definitely I would say get on that Jocko training with jujitsu. That would handle all those things for you for sure, at least on that aspect of things.
Yeah, and that's what I'm noticing,
Yeah.
and just I have to get that adrenaline going. I
Yeah.
have to do something to physically get that cloudiness out of my head.
Makes sense. It's so interesting when you say that. And obviously, I'm a big Warriors fan, and recently Draymond Green, he just got in a fight with one of our guys, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, end of the world fighting!" And he took a few days off because he had to evaluate, like, what the heck's wrong with me? And he said, "You know what? This is the first year. Like, usually every summer, I'm out there doing pickup games in my old neighborhood. Very aggressive, very physical. This is what we do." But I had gotten an injury the last year, and I was kind of like, I can't blow my whole career over pickup games on the weekend, over the summer, even though that was my outlet. And so unfortunately that outlet came out on my teammates in this arena where it hasn't before, because I didn't give myself that outlet prior. And so it's interesting. That's exactly what it reminds me of what you're saying. It's like you've got to have that outlet in a right way so it doesn't affect you in the way or in a place that it shouldn't.
Yeah, and and I'm looking at, like people like Sean or some of these guys where they're bringing boxing back into it, and you're seeing everyone roll into it, or grappling, or the taekwondo, whatever it is. Um, I really didn't realize I need it till this year,
Mm.
and I think what it is just my body's trying to heal itself in the past couple of years of trying to get the alcohol out of my system, and then now you heal so much through that process to where you just I think finally it took, and I'll be completely honest, I think it took about 2.5 years to finally just settle in. Okay, hey, you're completely restarted. This is who you are. But it takes that passiveness that you had for 2 years, and it just pushes it out of the way. And even though, like for me now, I can be more passive, introverted at times. I know I have an extrovert side of me, and to me, I think throwing someone or whatever it is can just get that adrenaline, just kind of snap me back into that, to where doing sales calls, doing emails, texts, whatever it is. I'm not as fearful of that stuff versus a traditional, sitting there in the chair going, "Oh my god, I got to make phone calls."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's good to have a balance of both. I mean, we look at like just the analogies, like the peaceful warrior or these things. It's like, I think it's good and important to embrace both sides so you could be your best on either side.
Jordan Peterson's 100% correct on that saying, where he's like, you got to be a beast and you got to hide it and you got to learn how to contain it. I never learned how that until recently. And I'm like, yeah, he's 100% on that, because, we were going out of control, or vice versa. Like we had different avenues and channels with our addictions. And, why am I going back into that? Why do I need that? Vice versa, whatever it is. And it's an outlet that we had a lot of energy into it. Okay, so now you take that outlet. What are you gonna substitute in that outlet that you just ripped away? And for me, it's fighting, not physically fighting, running, working out. For me, it's in the gym.
Yep.
And I'll be 100% honest. Yeah, the gym did save my life. As my faith and as self development, my business, and all that stuff. But gym was number two, and I took a lot of my outlet out in the gym.
Yeah. Well, there's something so empowering about moving heavy weights, throwing stuff around. Like I absolutely love the gym. I could never imagine not having that. Now that I have that, it's like you said, it just becomes that place where you have that outlet, where you feel powerful, where you feel strong, where you can shut everything else out. And the second place that I love it is, and you and I have this in common as well, is our love for heavy metal and
Oh,
hard
yeah.
music. There's something that just, and it was so funny because I had this great conversation with Rich Davini about it. Because I was like, well, do you think there's some hormones attached to like certain people liking certain music and that sort of thing? And it's like very much. And so there's definitely for me, when that loud, hard, fast music hits, it releases that side for me as well. So I can go from being very zen to being very hard
Oh,
in an instant, and I love having both.
there's two or three songs I know that you get the first 30 seconds into it, and all hell's gonna break loose.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've heard it millions of times. Enter Sandman. You get that drum riff at the beginning, especially when you got weights in your hand. You're gonna have a fun time. The
Right.
other one that recently came back into me is more Slayer stuff, and I was
Oh,
never a Slayer fan. But there's
I
just
love Slayer.
something with like Rain and Blood and Salt to Heaven where those guitar riffs just kind of fade right on top of your head.
Yes.
And the other one is Into the Void by Black Sabbath.
There you go.
The newest version, the one from like 2013, because I think Tony, I there's a lot of patterns in the rock industry. So like Mustaine and all these guys now they tune down when their voice is getting older, and whatever tuning they had when they did the reunion with in 2013 or 14 is such a crunchy sound when he did that song. It's unbelievable. I wish they would just release it right there.
Yeah.
It's such that I mean, you can just talk into this stuff, but that chunk, that chugging, is the best way of saying it, and
Oh
it
yeah.
just wakes you right up.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. It was so cool going to that festival last weekend because I got to like relive all that loud, hard music again and sort of vicariously let go of all that aggression and energy that I always get from going to those shows. It was amazing.
And me and you were talking about Priest.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the loudest band I've ever saw, but the cleanest sound I've ever seen. I don't know what tubing or and I'm a tech guy and I don't even know what they have for tech pedals and amps. Usually I know. It's such a clean. I don't want to say it sounds like a knife going through you, but just how everything is tuned and how they have the sound set up, it just pokes and it's not distorted. It just cuts.
Yeah.
And it's just something with hearing a good Priest sound. And I think Richie walked up and just did a guitar slide like Zach, because I think he's trained a lot like Zach, or those two are pretty parallel with each other's styles.
Mm.
And they opened with, and if any of you guys haven't been to a Priest concert, I think for the last 20 years, whatever, they open with War Pigs, like they just the warm up song. And how they do it live is they actually shut the lights off. So when Ozzy's like in general, I'm not going to go through the whole scene here, but when it's the time for the crowd to sing, they shut the lights off, and then the crowd, and they bring the house back lights up, so it's the crowd singing, and then they go
Yeah.
back in their frame and they shut the lights back off again, and it's just the lights are flashing and all that stuff. They opened with Firepower and whatever it was because it was the local or their latest CD, and it was such a when that curtain dropped, it was just straight hour and a half of Priest of everything, and no breaks, no nothing. Band came off, and the drummer went back into Painkiller.
Uh, best
And
drums ever, man.
oh,
If your heart doesn't get going listening to that song, my God.
I was in the bathrooms, and I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna get too in depth here. The urinals were vibrating; they were actually moving like this. And I'm looking at the dude next to me, and guys, don't do that. But he's like, "I'd never seen this before. This is awesome." Like it was just the walls were shaking, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is loud." And you get back in there, and the guy's just ripping into that 2 minutes drum solo up on Painkiller, and it was probably one of the coolest live versions without any flashy shit of just straight guitar sound. I wish I would have saw Van Halen back in the day. I just never had a chance to see Van Halen. But it's probably that same feeling that people would get when Eddie was just going to town. It's just how they set those amps up. It's like right in your face, but it's not overly Slipknot distorted. And I'm not saying that long, but you get some of these bands that they live, they're not, the sound guy needs to get fired, and it just kind of rattles everything, and it just doesn't sound right. And some of these very good key bands, Ghost is the same way too. Very good show. Sound is
Who
just
was that last one you said?
Ghost.
Oh, Ghost. Yeah.
It's get past all the soft songs, but it's unbelievable live.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen them. I saw them at Aftershock a couple of years ago. Really good.
Yeah.
But Halford has got to have the best metal voice ever. Like that guy can hold a tune. Like I used to try so hard to hold my note as long as he did. I mean, there's no way. I just couldn't. I'd have to take a breath and it was so loud and so powerful. I don't know how he does it. I mean, massive training, but
And I
Amazing.
think he's clean now. I know back in the day, a lot of him and Scorpions and all those 80 bands in LA had a few extra additives in their voice that
Uh,
came in lines, and we'll just leave it that way. But I think a lot of these guys are clean now, and I don't know if it's just straight, you know, honey and whatever the concoction that they're mixing.
yeah.
He did not rattle. He did not lose. And they actually were on the third day set, so they played 2 days in a row. And usually your voice goes,
Yeah.
and he was still crystal clean.
Wow.
It was like unbelievable live. It's just the screeches, the squeals, the dude's his own instrument.
Yeah. 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 So, highly recommend to anybody who has not seen Judas Priest. You got to put that one on your bucket list in this lifetime because they are truly amazing, true showmen. And I appreciate the ones that have been around for a while. Like, even, we talked about Slipknot because they headlined the first night. You just see, what did they say? This is like their 20 years, 30 years. They've been around a really long time. 20 something, but you can like feel that at Kiss too, that experience of having worked together for so long, created magic so long. It's perfection. Although I like, like the rawer bands that are newer, but when you see someone who's been around for a while, it's an art, the whole thing top to bottom. It's so polished. It's amazing.
When I saw Ozzy live, I noticed that in the forefront because he had 10 years open in the middle, and then there was another one from Australia that opened for him. And you could tell like the experience of just building up. 10 years is very good live.
Yeah.
Um, but you could just tell once Ozzy came, and I had actually one of my friends, it was his first concert he was at. He's like, "How is this going to be?" I'm like, "Just watch production, just watch how it is." He was such a general up on stage, just
Yeah.
non-vocal, just kind of like raise his arm or whatever, and everyone was so tight, and it was an absolute phenomenal show. Just, but these guys, like you said, they know, and I'm a tech guy at church, but you can feed off someone on stage. So if I'm going to do my role versus, looking at them on stage, okay, if Ozzy's going to lift his hand slightly on his pants, whatever it is, okay, hit this button, this. It's on the back scenes of it. A lot of you guys don't see that, but there's cues that you could just say, okay, hey, what are you going to do? What are you in? And we're actually almost producing as he's walking on stage.
Mm.
And that takes such a feel. And I'm not nowhere near where those guys are at, but it's when you have the same guy with your team for like 10 years, 15, 20 years, you could just hit go and he'd be like, "I'm going to follow you. Just go." And okay, at 30 seconds you do this and you become such a clockwork with that stuff. And I never noticed I had that skill until I actually cleaned up, but I think
Mm.
that's because I finally connected in my past. Um, my mom got raised up around drums, percussion. All my uncles were all percussionists, piano players at the beginning, and then they kind of branched out and did their own way. And deep, a couple generations back, we actually have Liberace in our family. So it sounds really weird to say it this way.
Like related to Liberace?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
100% serious on that.
Huh.
It's like fourth or fifth cousin, somewhere up one, down two, or whatever it is. And you could
Interesting.
start seeing patterns of like the piano and the ear and everything kind of go. My grandma, myself, my mom, my uncle, my sister are pretty much everyone in the family that has the ear, and it's a
Mm.
listening ear. So when we see a band play or whatever, we can sit there and everyone's going to town and be like, okay, the bass is off just a little bit, or the drummer just miscued, or he's off time. And you never notice how much your brain becomes time, and
Mm.
and that's just the music term of staying in rhythm. And you never really realized it until you finally, like for me, I ripped the alcohol away, and yeah, look at that.
Oh, sorry.
Rip the alcohol away, and you can finally start bringing these skills back. And I never know I had that experience as a producer,
Mm.
or in general in that role, until I finally realized, okay, hey, I have a gift for this with my ear, and you just start adding more stuff into the gift. Obviously, I have other gifts too that I love doing, but that's just one of those natural ones I have fun with.
Would you say that is DNA? That's more nature over nurture, or combination of both?
I'm not gonna sit here and say it's DNA, but I think the older I'm getting, I'm realizing it's DNA. And it's Wolfgang Van Halen's the same way.
Yeah.
You're surrounded, you get raised up around it. Um, DNA for him is grabbing that guitar handle and just doing what he does best with that last name that he has.
Yeah.
And but all those guys got raised up, and Cantrell, and I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan, but they're like, your tone's from your fingers and your wrist. Your tone's not from the guitar neck and the inlets, the pickup. Yeah, pickups are certain things, but it's like Metallica's and stuff. It's the palm mutes, it's the chugging, it's just the angle of the neck, it's your fingers on there's a whole lot of stuff to make a song sound great. Zach is a pinch harmonic where you roll you kind of, and I'm going to kind of get a little weird, but you kind of roll your palm of your finger into that string. And
Hmm.
and dime was you roll it, drop the hammer, bring the whammy back up, and that's how you get the dime squeals. And you just you start using that gift, and then it just kind of molds into what these guys do. And once you kind of figure it out, I haven't played in a while. I just knew that from my time, um, but it just kind of blends into it. Just the more you rip away and the more you just become more aware, the more it just kind of blends and comes back to you.
It makes sense. I mean, I don't have a musical bone in my body. As much as I love music, I can sing alt songs from the last 30 years. I do not have a musical bone. I can't point that stuff at all. And that's why I love going the show with Tommy, because he is a musician and he'll point stuff out like that. Like we were talking about Black Label Society. So you had Zach Wild playing, and then you had his guitarist playing. And Tommy was like, he plays it so weird. He's like, just like what you're saying, he flips it from the other side. It's not that way.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything like that. And so he opens my mind in the moment to what's happening, where I would have zero clue. I'd be looking at the fire and stuff like that. I would have no idea that guy's bass wasn't on or sound wasn't working on it for the first three songs. Like I wouldn't even know. So it's
Yeah.
cool to go with somebody that can point like that stuff out, because it's just not second nature to me whatsoever. It's like
And
a
I
foreign
didn't
language.
Yeah, I didn't really know about that awareness until I finally got around musicians. All and yes, it could be DNA, it could be just generations, it could be just. And I cannot read music. I'll be 100% honest here, guys. I cannot read music. I can hear music. I cannot read it. Like you give me the worship band list, I don't even care. I won't even read it, or vice versa. You give me Enter Sandman of A sharp F square, whatever it is, and that's not a note. I'm just using that for example. I won't even care. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah.
I like for me, it's you put it up on YouTube. Okay, where's his fingers at? Where he is on the string. Okay, this is how I do it. All right, now how's his other hand? Okay, and Hendrix was the same way with and Voodoo Child was one of my favorite songs.
Crazy. Yeah.
Growing up in '90s wrestling too, that probably didn't help with that song, but it just certain little things of just adding. I mean, you could talk for music all day long, but
We could.
it's just certain things, certain parts, and just a little add-on improvs. Um,
Yeah. So would you say, and you mentioned this earlier, that now that you're sober, it's almost reopened that world back up. So maybe it was like a big part of your life, then the drinking and all that sort of became bigger, overshadowed all that. And now you're going back to a place where this stuff is more important and prominent again and clearer.
I think what it is you ripped out everything that would kind of mask that creativity.
Yeah.
And the best way of answering it is I think now I'm taking, since we're both alert with being sober, um, we're trying whatever we can to make sure our head's in a good space. And for me, creativity's in my head. Whether it's like I said, walking by the lake, um, writing goals down, having a friend lift you up, whatever it is, it just adds a little spin of that creativity. But yes, creativity zones is the best another way, and I think Tony Watley said it and a few other guys. But you have like a chunk where you're just 100 miles an hour, and everything's just flowing left and right, whatever it is. That only comes very seasonally for me, and that's where the design that you have on the T-shirt popped up. But it was literally a night in February, and I remember this blatantly, and just boom, 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 like for 3 hours. I just had coffee and I just went to town, and I knew I had to get that out. And for me, that was building for a couple months, and then it
Was that
just
a book, a brand? What were you building for 3 hours?
it was. I had about 6, 7 different clothing designs that, or in even
Oh,
emblems. But I was at the point where my book was done, the launch was done, And
Yeah.
now my mind's like, this is what I shelved during my buildup of my book. And now the big launch was done. And now I'm like, okay, what's my next project? Okay, take that off the shelf, come back. And I kind of kicked it down the road for about a month. And all of a sudden I just got to a point where the people were in my life at that time. I'm like, okay, you do whatever you need to do tonight. I'm not even gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna see you. I'm gonna go hide in my room. I'm gonna crank the music up, get a pot of coffee, and just empty whatever's in my have a huge brain dump. And I think I ended up designing 6 or 7 different emblems.
Wow.
The one that we both, and I'm gonna, shoot talk about the stuff that we have on right now, but this was one of them on my hat. The other one on the t-shirt was another one, and it just, which is weird because the ones that everyone likes was the ones that I thought were kind of like a leftover. So like I treated that as a leftover one, be like, all right, cool, this looks all right, so let's shelve it and not look at it. And now revisiting it like 3 or 4 months ago, like the emotion finally, like my mind finally slows down and be like, okay, there's a lot of emotion behind this one. Let's bring this one back out and
Mm.
see how that goes. But yeah, I haven't had a creativity zone like that. I used to have that all the time growing up. I would go home, I would, I was constantly building something and just go into the garage or in the workbench that we had in the basement and just literally jack the music up to like 10 and just shut the world down and build whatever's in my hand, physically look at, create whatever it is. And now I'm just using that power that I had of not building something. Instead, I'm building something e-commerce. I'm doing something with marketing, whatever it is. I can substitute things that I still love to do into that zone. But I haven't had a aha, build creativity zone, especially since the day that I dumped all those on myself. So I would say mid February, and I'm due for one. Um,
Yeah. Well, sounds like you're in the right season. Everything's slowing down. It's might be the time to crank up that coffee and go for it.
I
See,
need it. Go ahead.
yeah.
So
Oh, I was gonna say, what, you got me wondering because I've never been like the artist type, right? I wasn't good at music. I'm not good at art. Poems, like I'm just not, that's not me. I'm more of like the mental, let's think, let's communicate. I'm sort of that other side of things. So I wonder and I wish and I want more to create or live in this creative side, but I don't know how to take my mind out of it to let it flow, I guess it would be.
well, so the funny thing is, my sister's completely opposite me. So she's more of a engineering type mindset. A B C D E F G. Very analytical. Um, I think the best way of saying on both sides of it, even if I become more of that personality, I'm stressed out. This is just what I've learned. If I'm very
Hmm.
stressed out, I become very analytical. Um, but I think for people to escape that, just with the experience I've been around with people and friends that all have that, I think when they feel comfortable and not overwhelmed, and they're relaxed, that creativity starts coming back. I
Yeah.
think there's such a fog and there's such a just computer in their head, and I'm the same way. Like mine's just different, wired differently on certain things, but when it's finally slowed down and public perceptions are gone, the people you think that are not going to like it are gone, um, and you're just free. It comes and it just dumps out, and I've seen it on both sides of it. But I'm more in the family. I'm more of the non extrovert,
Yeah.
um, and the one that would climb a mountain and drop his pants and flip the world off. Like I'm just that personality, and but that's my release, and that's, I feel like I'm not caged up when I'm doing that. And for someone like her personality, sitting down doing a puzzle, sitting down, work crosswords, whatever it is, that's her release, and that's what I've learned, over the years of just kind of having two people that are completely different personalities, and that's
Hmm.
that's my sister. We're 100% opposites, and it's cool that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I notice even for myself, like I like to do even just face. Facebook games, mindless, matching things. I feel like it's good for my brain to sort of consistently be sort of working and solving problems, but I can also do it sort of on autopilot, though, although I'm doing it, it's freeing my brain up because it's also keeping itself busy. So there's this odd dichotomy of like, probably like your sister, where we're doing something where it's to your average person, they really got to think about it. But for us, it's actually how we can not think about things so that it frees our mind to be able to do these, have the stuff come in and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and for her, it's flying or being near the airplane, like anything near like an airplane slash, because she was a hurricane hunter back in the day, so she would fly through hurricanes, drop cores, do all that stuff for the Air Force.
A hurricane hunter?
Yeah, she was the one that flew through all the hurricanes. So
Like
if
flew like in a plane? Like, is
yeah,
this a thing?
yeah, yeah,
I've never even
yeah.
heard of this.
So and I'm gonna give a crash course just briefly what it is. She knows exactly what it is, but it's a weather plane that punctures a hurricane, drops a weather core on each side of the hurricane. I could be wrong; they might drop one in the eye, but what it
Wait,
is,
what's a weather core?
just a long, like a bomb type core. So like, and I didn't say that on live, but a 2 foot core that's about 3 inches wide. That's got all kinds of like the measuring tools and all that stuff, like wind speed measuring sticks. And
Okay.
she would know exactly what's in that, but that's just from my basic knowledge.
Yeah.
And she'd be the one in the plane that would hit the button to drop it in the storm. So they're strapped in a chair,
Wow.
bulldozing through this hurricane and drop a core, go in the eye, drop a core again, go another, I think she said like 50 miles away, 100 miles away, turn around and come back and do it and return back to base. But yeah, for her being around anything airplane related, weather related, whatever it is, she just becomes so creative. And
Wow.
and that's her zone. And she could, and mine's, hunting, fishing, outdoor stuff, working out, whatever it is. We just have these specialty zones that we just kind of get into, and it just releases. But yeah, she could.
Hers is literally like the eye of the storm. Like
Yeah,
that's my happy place in the middle of a hurricane.
and the funny thing is, I don't want to call her like a. She gets very nerdy with like the airplane terms and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm her brother. I can joke around when I say that, but she can run through airplane commands and all that stuff. And she pretty much was a pilot. So like she's got all the wind speed, this, knots, this, Alpha, Roger, whatever. Like I'm not the Air Force guy, but yeah. So like her brain's absolutely insane, and she's more book smart. I'm more street smart. Just common sense. We both have common sense because our mom raised us that way. We want to still get dirty growing up. But she's very book smart, and I'm more of the, hey, holy shit, I'm on fire. Why am I on fire? Kind of back off, and then, oh, hey, there's a fire ahead. Let's go back in it and figure out to go another 5 feet. So I'm more of the risk taker on certain things. She's more risk take adrenaline type. I'm more of the, hey, I'm going all in on my debt, and it doesn't matter what my bills are going to say to go get this accomplished. And just different style risk, just different personality styles. And it's a great thing to have someone that's completely opposite of me, just to kind of and balance me at times. But yes, I can get ruthless, and when it's time to achieve a goal, I get to become a bulldozer, and I don't care who's in my way. If I'm very mad at it, if it's something I have to accomplish, trying to prove someone wrong, I turn into a real ruthless guy.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a worthwhile cause and it's going to help mankind, sometimes you got to be like that because nothing comes easy that's worth doing. So, you gotta go all in and be ruthless if you want to achieve that stuff, because the world's not set up for the good guy to win, or so it can appear sometimes.
The world's going to eat you up, spit you up, throw you around, spin you in circles, and spit you back out.
Yeah, so you got to be tenacious if you're going to be a winner, for sure. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell our listeners, what are you up to now? Besides being a book author, a speaker, you have your own podcast, you have your own clothing line. You're kind of doing tons of cool stuff.
I'm doing tons of cool things. I'm actually breaking down more in depth, and actually I'm doing 2 things. I'm actually writing for book number 2. And what I'm doing a different approach here. So what I did with that one is I did a lot of steps, but it's also very faith-based, and it was perfect at that time. and I write books on time. So like how I feel at that moment, what happens in my life. What I noticed at the time of just growing through it is it was it was great for everyone, but not everyone liked it because they're like,
Mm.
"Hey, this is a great book. This is what it was," but this wasn't my type. So what I wanted to do is now I'm looking at is okay, how do I write a very good common sense, street smart um, steps on how I overcame my addiction, or vice versa, steps on how theme of my life right now is breaking free from the pack. How do you break free? How do you do this? And I actually have my notes sitting next to my mic, which is not currently working at the moment, but I'm breaking down where I'm gonna potentially, if someone wants to, hire me or whatever it is as a coach, I shied very away from coaching just for the sake of focusing on everything else. Um, but it's at the point now where it's going to be okay. These are the steps I'm going to do. If you guys want me to help you, yes, there's a fee involved. I'm fine with that, but I'm more focused on just developing like a 8-week mastermind tech course. And then another one is kind of, and there's been a huge pattern with it in our industry, but
Yeah.
a physical men's mastermind slash group. And I don't want to say it that way, but like I know Ray and Bedros are doing like the iron training, whatever they call it. But there's just something with these guys that are missing stuff like that. And I'm noticing lately where we're almost feeling solo doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And guys in the wrong group are they're and one came to me last week. He's like, I don't trust the guys I'm hanging around with. He's like, I can't truly be myself. It's like this is what I'm kind of looking for. I don't want it too extreme on one side. I don't want it on the other side. I just want it saying, okay, hey, I want a group where I can be self-developed, design where it's just a group of guys in the neighborhood coming together. Say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you need to do to achieve it. This is self-help. We're always growing, whatever it is. And in it, yes, we're all part of groups like that in their national base, but there's something with trying to bring that stuff back locally that as a national level, it's amazing. But when you bring it back locally, you get the people that aren't in our industry, but they can still tap into that stuff. And
Mm.
I'm kind of reversing that, saying, okay, hey, I am part of these national groups, but let's bring some of the stuff from these groups to Upper Midwest where people never heard of it before, and say, hey guys, all this is out there. All this is here. I can be the middleman to filter you into it, or we can just kind of say, okay, hey, these are the guys that listen. These are tips, trades, whatever it is. Let's change your life. And I shied away from the coaching for so long
Mm.
because, and we're going to go do lockdown here, but for lockdown, and that's just how the industry was. But every 2 people, 3 people are like, hey, I'm a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a coach. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be part of that circle. I want to just build a business and get it established and learn the e-commerce world. Just learn all the fuzzy stuff and in the sexy stuff behind the scenes, and kind of build it and go from there. But there's so much techniques and trades and stuff I taught myself that it's going to make me feel real selfish if I don't give it back to the community. And
So is
from
that like a local group you're thinking of having, like an in-person live local group where I think that's amazing. You're right, and it has been missing, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's for me, I think it's going to be statewide. I don't know if we're going to be doing Zoom on it yet, but I would love to.
Mhm.
I'm near, within an hour of me, I'm near Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay. Um, Obviously, Twin Cities is 4 hours away from me.
Okay.
Chicago's 2 hours. But what it is just there's, and I'm gonna use this for example, just in my inner circle. Everyone that's locally, I have 2 people that are part of the groups that we're part of, in 1 or 2 that you're part of that I'm not yet. But out of everyone I know, that's a couple thousand people through like all the networks and stuff. There's only 2.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's going on here? And you just talk to people that are like, we never know that's an option. We never knew those groups were available. And to me, I'm like, what, like we're missing out. We're missing a lot of just the spirit of being an entrepreneur, just the spirit of getting self-development, growth, whatever it is. We're missing a lot of it. And for me, I think that's how it would flip this area. And I'm gonna use Dallas for example. Dallas is on fire. And Houston's on fire, Cali's on fire, St. Louis is on fire. It's just these big key areas that have very influential, in a good way, leaders that are in these groups that are just tearing the walls down and just making
Yeah.
these people grow insanely crazy. If people aren't in our industry, and I'm going to use the whole overall of personal development industry, e-com, whatever it is, they do not know that's available. And they don't put the effort into it because to them it's okay, I'm just staying in my local real estate, group, and that's it. They never looked into it, and they don't even know. And I'm gonna use Ed for example. Like they're like, oh yeah, I heard his podcast, but they do not know everything else that he's part of, or Andy's part of, or Sean, or whatever it is. And we
Sure.
can just go through the whole list of all those phenomenal guys and girls at that level. And it's just people do not have that access here unless you're in a larger metro area or you put the effort to go find it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're right. And they probably have no idea it exists. So you start your own group on the ground level and can open the door to these bigger groups and other groups. And, it's all about self betterment. And sometimes it just takes, finding the right tribe or the right group. You can be in groups, but it's not in alignment with you. And it ends up, I won't say doing more harm than good, but it's just not in alignment. So I think it's really cool that you want to take that on as a purpose to create groups of like-minded individuals, because then that's where the power is when you're surrounded with people. Not that you all just sit around and talk and have fun because you're like-minded, but you learn together, grow together, and you learn in the same way. You have the same belief system.
And it still brings the ones that I'm still part of, the ones you're still part of, it still brings a little taste of that stuff to them
Yeah.
and say, hey guys, if you want to join them, it's X amount. You have all access to whatever. And it's great where I can be at the beginning of that funnel of saying, welcome to this beautiful life. Like go far along in that funnel as you want and go crazy. But
Yeah.
this is partly what it is for me to get healthy and happy and whatever it is. So yeah, I'm part of, I think I'm 4 or 5. I had to back out of one of them. I love the crew to death. I just I'm like, I don't want to be splitting all these and not
Yes, I'm in
committed
the
to
same
every.
boat. I'm like, next year I need to simplify. I'm too spread thin now. I got so excited. I joined about, like you said, about 5 of them, and next year I think I got to take it down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in personal locally, I'm removing myself on certain groups and just kind of, not say grown out of it, just the directions they're going are just kind of like, I'm like, okay, guys, that's a little too extreme for me. That's fine. Like love you guys to death, but it's time to kind of channel that back in and not say kick out the ones that aren't supposed to be part of it. Not that I just found myself as a great happy balance between my old life and where I'm at now. And you could just teeter totter back, not the drugs and not that stuff, but like just teeter totter between both, you know, people and say, okay, hey, let's just go right in the middle on certain things. And these are my beliefs and just kind of stay in my lane is the fancy way of saying it.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so the name of my show is called Going Rogue. What do you think is your best thing that you go rogue at, but it is a successful thing and more people should do it?
Oof.
I know. It's a deep thinker. I'm like, should I try this question out? Let's try it.
Honestly, the most refreshing, rewarding, life-changing event was walking up, and you can edit it if you want, but this is what it was, and it helps with my business, honestly. Walking up to the Continental Divide, walking up at the top of the mountain, and literally mooning everyone and raising your rock horns up. I have a picture of that to this day.
Yes.
Um, I don't want to say like people are like, oh my god, you just mooned everyone. No, I did not. It was a sense of release of not really giving a shit what people's opinions are.
Yep.
That sense of freedom of just being there. What was I, 9,000 or 10,000 feet in the air?
Yeah.
Releasing that and then bringing it back home of saying I'm healed or I'm happy or my opinions don't matter, whatever it is. That was such a life-changing experience of going rogue. No
I
pun.
love that.
And for me, that's still one of my favorite things. The other one is just perseverance, getting back up, dusting yourself up.
Yep.
Obviously, we both been through a lot. We've been through the grinder and survived.
Yeah.
And just getting back up, even though I want to beat myself up at times, the strength of just getting back up, dusting myself off, and restarting has just been an insane skill that I've had since little on.
I love that. And it is a skill because it's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy to stay down because mentally it's torture, but it does take a lot of perseverance to get back up and say, okay, that sucked, but I'm going to keep going.
Got to get moving. Got to get
Gotta
moving.
get moving. It's not, or else the world's just going to roll us over. So we just got to keep going.
Yeah, and the best line, and obviously, yeah, I fight with my parents at times, but the best line that my mom ever gave me when I went through my divorce and my addiction and stuff, she goes, "You're a Harmon. We get back up." She goes, "Get back up. Let's go." And I'm like,
Nice.
okay. So I'll remember. There's just a few key things I remember, and for me, that's one of the few things that makes me go rogue.
Ah, I love that. So, where can our listeners find you if they want to look up your podcast, your book, all the things you're doing? What's the best way to find you?
All right. So my two main things are my two websites. One is not updated, but if you just go to battlewarriorbrands.com, which is my own brand, I will have everything for the clothing. I have my blogs on there. For podcasts, social media stuff, at the Chad M. Smith on Instagram. I'm pretty open with my own public post on Facebook, but I do have the You Are More movement on Facebook, which we're both repping right now.
That's right.
And that's turning into more of a group where people are feeling the release of just saying, "Hey, I went through something in my past," and now they're like, "Hey, someone's actually out there doing the same thing." And that's a sense of awareness that I felt when I started bringing those back out. It's a release, and the people of saying, "Okay, someone else is doing it. Someone else made it through. All right, breathe. All right, cool. Hey, man, welcome. Let's go." It's just that release that people have with these groups.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on my show today. Like you said before, we could just sit and talk forever. We have a lot in common and a lot of the same lessons we've learned in life. And I appreciate you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much. And like I said, in about 25 minutes, my pre-workout's going to kick in. And it's going to be gripping and ripping sometime. So,
heck yeah. Hopefully some heavy deadlifts, some back squatting.
honestly, I'm going every day now. I haven't taken a break. I'm just learning I have to do that. And honestly, I'm going to look at what I have today. I haven't looked yet. Let me see.
Recovery is part of the going hard, especially with lifting.
Sundays are my full yoga day.
Perfect.
So for me, I have to lift 5 to 6 days a week. But I think what it is like I said, back to the mornings with yoga, for some odd reason, getting me stretched out. I think my recovery is actually way faster doing that.
Absolutely.
It is literally arms day today. So it's going to be swell time.
Perfect. Perfect.
It's time to go.
Have fun with that pre-workout and your arms, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye.